Did Pluto ever actually stop being a planet? Experts debate. It's been 18 years since Pluto's celestial status was called into question, yet the matter seems far from settled. We asked experts from both sides to make their case. In 2006, the world lost a lot of stars. Actress Shelley Winters, soul icon James Brown, naturalist Steve Irwin, but only one planet, Pluto, declared the ninth planet in our solar system after its discovery in 1930 by American astronomer. Pluto is mauve, marble colored, and became quickly beloved thanks to its association with Mickey Mouse pet dog, who was originally named Rover, but renamed after the planet in 1931. Then, in 2006, Mike Brown, Caltech professor of astronomy and author of How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming, crashed the party and took away Pluto's planetary classification. Ever since, the worlds of science and pop culture have debated Pluto's fate. To celebrate the 94th anniversary of Pluto's discovery, we sat down with Brown and Philip Metzer, retired planetary physicists at NASA's Kennedy Space Center and current associate scientist at the University of Central Florida, to get some answers. Are Brown and like-minded people correct in reducing Pluto's significance and instead focusing on new discoveries like the yet unconfirmed Planet 9? Or do Metzger and others have a solid argument for the triumph return of Pluto? How did you end up on your respective ideas of the Pluto? No Pluto fence. Since I've been at Caltech, one of my main areas of research has been the objects in the outer part of the solar system and Kuiper belt objects like Pluto. And one of the largest projects that I did back in the early 2000s was the first really wide scale search for other objects as large as Pluto. Other dwarf planets, before we called them dwarf planets, which by the way is a stupid term. How so? Because it's unnecessarily confusing. People are like, well, it says planet, so it has to be a planet. I'm like, the seahorses would like to have a word with you about that. Before the International Astronomical Union made up that term, we used the word planetoid to describe these things that are small but round, and it's a much better word because it's not as confusing. The only reason that Pluto was called a dwarf planet after its planet status was revoked is because that was snuck in there by the pro-Pluto people in hopes that they could then get a vote that dwarf planets are planets. The vote was then overwhelmingly rejected, but we're left with that stupid phrase. I blame the Pluto people for that. This is what a debate among astronomers talking about the term dwarf planets was like. We would say that there are a lot of dwarf planets, and that these dwarf planets are actual planets in the Kuiper belt. But the thing is, we're not really arguing for Pluto to be reinstated because we think that the vote to downgrade it was irrelevant. The IAU didn't have a right to do that vote. They violated their own bylaws when they did it. Our claim is that it never stopped being a planet because taxonomy is part of science, and the taxonomy that matters is the one that the scientists are using and finding useful, whereas the public's astrological based taxonomy is not useful for science. It doesn't align with any theories, and that's unfortunately the one that the IAU adopted. Okay, maybe let's start with the criteria for planet status. In 2006, The IAU decided, number one, that a planet must orbit a star directly. Based on that, the moon would not be a planet. It's what we called a secondary planet, whereas the Earth is a primary planet. The second thing they said is that it has to be large enough to pull itself into a round shape by its own gravity, what we called gravitational rounding. And then the third condition was, and this is the one designed to eliminate bodies like Pluto, it has to gravitationally dominate its orbit in order to clear the neighborhood of its own orbit from other bodies. They didn't define what they meant by that. They just figured people would make it more concrete later. You could argue the Earth is not a planet because the Earth doesn't clear out its own neighborhood. What they really meant was a planet has to be gravitationally dominant according to some unknown metric that they hadn't created yet.